you have a practice or are you running a business? Valuation is the ultimate KPI.
Hey there, it's Mike Langford. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast, brought to you by Truelytics, the one and only comprehensive advisor transition management platform. I'm going to be flying solo for this episode for what I think you are going to find to be a very engaging and intellectual exploration of the concept of target marketing or niche marketing. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about the importance of target markets and niche markets for individual advisors. But just a little preview, I want to talk about target marketing for RIAs and small broker-dealers in this episode, because as I look at 2020 and beyond, I think it's going to be incredibly important for that segment to get serious about target marketing as well. In the last episode of the show, Dan Caprill and I discussed a few benefits of niche marketing, and you probably know these, right? The obvious one is it makes an advisor more efficient, both in their client acquisition efforts and their ability to serve their existing client roster, right? You know, when you serve a niche, you can build your entire business around serving that segment of people better than anyone else, right? So it really makes sense for an individual advisor, and I think most of us get this. Now, when I talk about niche marketing, target marketing, I usually use this one example where I first got the this can be incredibly powerful and every advisor should be doing this. And as you'll hear as we move along, every RIA is a firm, right? So if it's good for one individual advisor, it's certainly good for a group of advisors to think this way. And if it's good for a group of advisors to think this way, it's good for a broker-dealer that serves independent individual advisors, kind of thinking as a group as well, to think in terms of niche marketing. So let's dive into the story that was my big aha moment, because I think it's really going to help you to get why I think it's so powerful. About a decade or so ago, I was speaking at an event for Morgan Stanley advisors. It was for their President's Club, which is like their top 15% of the advisors. Now, Morgan Stanley has a very large population of advisors, and many of them are really high-end advisors. And in fact, in order to get into that room, I want to say it was 2011, an advisor had to be making $750,000 a year or more. So these are heavy hitters, right? So most of them were making well above that. Now, as you might imagine, the demographics of that room were pretty predictable. 95% middle-aged dudes, right? It's skewed toward the older side of middle age, by the way, right? And that's probably true today. It's probably true at most independent broker-dealers, whether they're very large ones or the smaller broker-dealers that I'm really kind of thinking about today. And it's probably fairly true at most RIA firms right now, right? Your top performers are usually a little older, and that's usually because they've been at it longer. They've had time to accumulate more clients, and those clients have had time to accumulate assets. And so there you go. They're just going to be in the top performers. Just it's an attrition type of deal, right? Well, as I was scanning the crowd, and I like to do this when I'm on stage. I stand up on stage and I kind of pick my anchor points. I pick somebody over to the right near the front. I pick somebody over to the left near the front. I pick somebody kind of in the middle of the room, and I pick a couple of anchor points towards the back. And that way I feel like I'm making eye contact with everybody. So as I'm scanning the room looking for the people I want to chat with, I notice a young woman in the crowd. It's hard not to notice a young woman in a sea of dudes, right? And I'm thinking to myself, she can't be older than 35. And I think that's stretching it. I really hope I get a chance to meet her after this, because I would love to learn, like, wow, she must be just kicking butt to get into this room. So as luck would have it, she came up to me after I got off stage, because I had just given a presentation on using LinkedIn effectively for financial advisors, and kind of just giving them some tips and tricks, both on the offensive and the defensive side of why they should be using LinkedIn and how it can help them grow their business and protect their business. So she came up and she's like, Mike, I have a couple of questions. I wonder if you could help me out. I'm like, absolutely. I was hoping to get to meet you. So I answer her questions. And afterwards, I'm like, can I ask you a couple of questions? And she's like, sure. I go, well, look, you must be doing really well to be in here. Must have a great business. She's like, yeah, I did $1.2 million last year. Like, holy moly, that's amazing. How old are you? 32. Like, this is unbelievable. I go, so how have you done it? What's your secret? She looks me in the eye and she goes, I like widows. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I like widows. I've built my entire practice serving widows. And I go, well, how did this come about? She's like, well, look, I got in the business, tried to get my first clients or what have you. And then somebody referred me to a woman whose husband had just passed away. And she had never managed the money. She knew nothing about money management. She didn't know where half the statements were and where the accounts were. So she needed help, and somebody referred me into her. So I came down, I was patient, and I sat with her. She was really thrilled to see another woman to talk about this type of stuff, that she could trust her. She felt a little more comfortable there. And I helped her out. She became a client. And as you might expect, that older lady had other friends who were older ladies. And as typically happens in an older segment, some of their husbands died. And she started getting one referral after another of other widows. She realized she was onto something. So she's like, well, I went and started talking to funeral home directors. I started talking to estate attorneys and accountants who were working with the elderly. And I've built my business with widows. And she's like, what's really interesting, Mike? Not a single one of them have ever questioned my fee. So she has built a much more profitable business than she ever would have had she just been a generalist, right? She knows exactly who she's looking for. She has built up a support network, a referral network that's feeding into her because they know she's the person to send a widow to, right? If an old lady is there and she's just lost her husband and she does, or her wife, I guess nowadays, if she's just lost her partner and she doesn't know what to do, if she needs help, send her this way. Really, really powerful stuff. Everything in her business is much more efficient now. So now let's shift gears to the power of a target market for RIAs and smaller broker dealers. One of the biggest challenges facing smaller firms, and you might be able to relate if you're at a smaller firm, is constraint on resources. So unlike the Goliaths in our industry, if you're running an RIA or a smaller broker dealer, you have some pretty significant limitations on how much money you can spend on marketing, for instance. You also have a much smaller operational staff. And in fact, I'm always amazed at how small the teams are at broker-dealer firms. Like, wow, they got one person in charge of marketing. Wow, they've got one person who does practice management. Wow, they've got one, maybe two people at compliance. It's a small business, maybe serving hundreds of independent financial advisors, but it's a small business. So there's resource constraints there at the operational level. And then you have less room for error as well when you're smaller, when it comes to recruiting the right advisors to your firm. One bad apple and, it upsets the apple cart, right? Whereas the large firms, they can bring on tons of advisors. And if one of them doesn't work out, oh well, right? But one advisor doesn't work out, if you've got 10 advisors, that gamble could have cost you a lot. So let's take each one of these as they come, and we'll layer in a couple of other topics as well, I'm sure, along the way. First, let's dive in on marketing. Well, the big boys are able to run large national media campaigns and spend millions of dollars every year on events, before COVID, of course. You have to be much more diligent with your marketing spend, right? It's really hard to be an effective mass marketer with a small budget. But here's the thing. You can be crazy effective with target marketing. In the same way that the Morgan Stanley advisor was targeting widows, your firm can decide to target certain segments for your advisors to serve. Imagine how much more efficient and effective your firm could be if, for instance, that you decided you were going to make it a priority to serve executives and business owners in the tech industry. It's just one segment. Pick another one. We're going to roll with tech for our examples from here on out. So suddenly, the copy on your website becomes less generic. Instead of just saying, we serve people who need help with their wealth and need help with their estate planning and this and that. Instead of it just sounding like every other RIA out there or every other broker dealer out there who's saying, we really help our advisors succeed and so forth, you're focused, right? You have something unique on your website. You can talk specifically about the tech industry and how you serve them, or how your advisors are all focused on helping tech executives and how you are on the cutting edge with everything. Everything you do, your print material, your digital media will speak to this new target audience. Instead of running broad-based ad campaigns targeting zip codes where you think, some wealthy people might live, your firm is now extremely targeted with not only its copy, right, the ad copy, but it's also delivered to a very specific targeted audience on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and websites where tech leaders frequent, right? Now, all those websites I just mentioned, you can target people by profession. You can target them by location. You can target them by age. You get laser focus. And now you're really supporting your advisor population, aren't you? Right? You're helping them with what they need the most, right? They don't have to work so hard to bring in new clients. They've got a broker dealer or an RIA that's like, hey, we've got a feeder system here. We're going to help you get clients because these clients are going to know we're the best shop in town. Word starts to travel in the tech communities in the cities where you serve, right? Now you start to get referrals, much easier than before. Just like the lady who's serving widows, if you get known in the town as like, yeah, that's the RIA firm that works with all the big tech executives, you're going to have like no problem getting leads. Does this mean your firm needs to focus only on tech leaders? Of course not, right? You can absolutely serve other verticals, but you're not going to worry about the ones that you don't serve too well. You might, after time, decide, what we do need to do, however, just to kind of protect ourselves, is maybe we add another vertical once we've mastered this one, maybe in a non-correlated vertical, right? I don't know, maybe the medical industry after you've mastered tech, right? Not as correlated. So if the markets are down and the tech industry is getting its butt kicked, you're not worried so much over here because you've got it covered. Okay, does that make sense? I'm assuming you're nodding your head. So here we go. Okay, now let's jump ahead to recruiting. Recruiting high-quality advisors is one of the top priorities for all high-performing RIAs and broker-dealers. I mean, I talk to lots of executives in the industry, and they're always talking about how they're looking for new advisors. It makes sense, right? As I mentioned in an earlier episode, if you aren't recruiting, your business is surely in trouble because attrition happens to every firm. You are going to lose some advisors over time. So you absolutely need a pipeline. So what do you think is a better recruiting approach? Targeted or generic? Imagine your firm has decided that it is going to focus on serving executives and business owners in the tech industry. When you decide to recruit, you have a much better idea of who you're looking for, don't you? You're looking for advisors who already have client rosters that include tech leaders. You're looking for advisors who are fluent in tech lingo and understand stock option plans as well as the life cycle of venture-backed startups. You're looking for advisors who are comfortable pitching to a room full of coders. Chances are this advisor will need to be comfortable doing that pitch wearing jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers, right? Look a little out of place with your suit and tie going to the room full of coders. While this population of advisors who will fit this criteria is a much smaller group of advisors than you're typically used to pitching to at that, dining room at a steakhouse that you usually fill full of advisors who might be willing to move, you're much more likely to find advisors who are a better fit for your firm if you're targeted. They'll fit your culture. They'll be a better continuity partners for your existing advisors. Think about that concept for a second, right? If you have a target market and you start to bring all of your advisors on board for serving that target market, if there's a continuity need that happens, the other advisors should be able to step in without missing a beat, right? And they'll also be much more capable of training and developing newly minted advisors, like the really young advisors who just got their Series 7 or Series 65, and they just want help getting up to speed. They're going to be your junior advisors. If you're all working toward the same goal, looking to serve the same market, much easier to train, right? Here's the thing. While these advisors will likely be much more receptive to your pitch when you reach out to them, you're also likely to find advisors reaching out to you as they hear about that RIA firm or that broker dealer that specializes in serving tech leaders, right? You're going to find advisors who are like, yeah, that's my jam. I want to be with a firm that does that. The big guys can afford to hire anyone who can fog or mirror, right? They train a bunch of them. Most of them are going to wash out within a year or two, and they roll with the ones who made it and then kind of rinse and repeat. For them, it's just a numbers game. For your firm, you're going with the long tail, and you're going to get laser focused building a firm filled with the best and brightest for your niche. One last thing on recruiting. Not only will having a target market help you recruit advisors, it'll also help you recruit better quality operational staff as well. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. Real quick, a side note, retention. Retaining advisors, clients, and assets is also hugely important, especially in today's environment. Why would someone leave your firm if they know it's the best place for them to serve their clients? Right? They've dedicated their lives to helping professionals in the tech industry. Why do they want to go to another firm that just is generic? Do you think their clients would be thrilled moving to a firm where people are just really don't understand tech? I wouldn't. Right? Most of their clients joined in part because the firm specializes in serving them. Whereas think about the way that most firms operate now. Most people join because of the advisor. They left their old broker-dealer or RIA and followed the advisor to the new one. But if suddenly your firm is the one that specializes in serving a segment, they were sold on coming to this firm because it specializes in serving them. So they don't really want to go anywhere. So everything that comes to them, from statements to newsletters, is a reminder that your firm is the best at serving tech leaders in their city. Your retention rate is going to make other firms really, really jealous if you go with a target market. Okay, jumping back to the operational staff concept. One thing that I've noticed over the years, and you probably can relate to this, is you really notice the difference between a mass market product or service and one that specializes in serving a niche market or a specific market. I'll give you a really simple example, and I literally just experienced this today. I bought a brand new pair of sneakers, the Brooks Ghost 12s. They're running shoes. And they're literally like the best shoes I've ever put on. And they are so much better than any other pair of running shoes I've ever put on. Now, they're expensive, but I put them on, and even just feeling like how they slip on your feet, as soon as they get in there, cushions, amazing. The laces feel like, where did they get these laces? These are like super high-end laces. I've never felt high-quality laces like this. You can tell these sneakers were designed for a specific market, for people who are running, right, and want really comfortable, supportive shoes. You can just tell that they are just better than my generic Adidas or whatever, right? These shoes mean business. Think about the tools you use in your own business. Many advisory firms use Redtail CRM. Why? Most firms use Hearsay Social or Smarsh for their social media management systems. Why? On the recruiting side, you have TrueRecruit by Truelytics. Why would you use these tools when you could use a mass market CRM or social media solution or cobble together spreadsheets and some other stuff for your recruiting platform? Because once you use tools that were designed from the ground up for your specific needs, everything feels off, just like the Brooks sneakers I just got today. The same is true for a team of people in the systems that support a variety of advisor types compared to a firm designed to support a group of advisors on a mission to serve a specific market segment. Think about the person at the front desk, for instance. If you specialized in serving tech leaders, this person would likely be well-versed in the local tech industry, the current events happening around the segment. They probably attend a lot of the tech meetups and so forth just to get to know everybody. Your clients would come into an office that reflects their world. Seemingly like simple things, like naming a conference room the Moore's Law room, or having This Week in Tech playing on the waiting room TV instead of CNBC or Bloomberg TV. That'll make a client feel right at home, wouldn't it? The same thing for recruiting a new advisor. If they walked in there and saw all this, they'd feel like, yeah, this is a place for me. And oh, by the way, it's way different than the other RIA I talked to down the street. Same thing. If you are a broker dealer and you're recruiting other independent advisors, give them a different experience. Give them a targeted experience. Let them know that your firm supports advisors just like them and you're all on a mission together. Okay, getting close to the end here, but a couple of points that are worth noting. Specialists are paid for their specialized expertise. Brain surgeons earn way more than your primary care physician, like a lot more. Why? There are a lot more primary care physicians than there are brain surgeons. And it's a lot harder to get the skills to be a really effective brain surgeon, right? There's also a lot more risk. You mess up the brain surgery, kind of a problem. If you mess up diagnosing whether somebody has a cold or the flu, okay, it could be a problem, but not likely that big of a deal. Okay, so the actual and perceived skill required to be a successful brain surgeon is much higher than a primary care doc. By specializing in serving a target market, you can expect to be able to command a much higher fee than generalists. Brain surgeons, again, make way more than the generalists. And it's similar with that Morgan Stanley advisor I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Her widow clients never question her fees. She's able to charge a premium fee in serving this client. Is she preying on those people? No. She's bringing a much better and much more specialized service to them than they would ever get anywhere else. They're not just going to be treated as just any other customer. They're one of her beloved clients. Like, this is what I do for a living. I get up in the morning to help widows. So it's a much better scenario. So it really stands to reason that the tech leaders or other niche that you're serving and your advisors are serving will understand that the in-depth expertise that you are applying to their financial well-being is worth paying more for. In a world where fee compression for many RIAs and broker-dealers is a big deal, and many of your leadership might be tossing and turning at night thinking about that, like fees are coming down, it's getting a little more challenging. Wouldn't it be a nice turn of events to go, no, we specialize. Our fees are our fees. And we're really good at what we do. And you ask around town, we're the one for you. Okay, now let's put this into action. All right. Next steps. First thing I want you to do is reach out to the team at Truelytics and ask them about two things. Number one, how do we get started with your platform? Because we want to get serious about our target market for advisors. Why do I say this? So the Truelytics system, particularly True Performance, looks at how you compare to your peers, other firms that are your peers. You want to go find that information out. And then you're going to be able to see how much opportunity there is, right? Are you underperforming your peer segment? Are you overperforming, right? But you get a feel for how you're doing. And then I want you to ask them, can you help us target our recruiting and M&A efforts for our chosen niche? Because Truelytics is working on a lot of things. I mentioned True Recruit. They have a solution called True Match coming later this year. It's going to help you find M&A partners. But start thinking about your niche and how you can use the tools to target that niche. Okay, that's the first step. Second step, I want you to take a half day with your team to look at your advisory population and their client rosters. So whether you're a small RIA firm that's got 5 advisors, 10, 20, or you are an independent broker-dealer and maybe you get 200 advisors, start looking at their client rosters. Somewhere in there, you're going to find some strengths. You're going to find that, wow, we've got a lot of this type of client from this segment. So it might be business segments like tech. It could be alumni populations like the University of Texas or wherever is relevant for your geography. It could be you have a lot of women-based business owners in the client roster. It could be widows, right? Find some strengths and commonalities in your advisor's client base. And also look for those commonalities in your advisor population itself. And now start to think, how can we build towards that? Obviously, the relationship with Truelytics will help that, but you're going to want to think about how do you move going forward? Because what we want you to do is grab something you feel confident with and then hold on for the ride, right? Build for that future. Start recruiting new advisors that fit the mold. Okay, we're going after the tech industry. Okay, we're going after women-owned businesses. Okay, we're going after people who graduated from University of Texas, hook 'em horns, and we are going to own this town, right? So I hope you found this beneficial. Obviously, I went through a lot of ideas here, a lot of benefits, some suggestions. I hope you found it encouraging and exciting and something you're willing to pursue. If you would like to talk about it a little bit more, absolutely do reach out to the Truelytics team. You can reach out via podcast@truelytics.com or info@truelytics.com if you have a business inquiry. But love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts. You can feel free to reach out to me. I'm at Mike Langford pretty much everywhere on the socials. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Please do stay safe. Make sure you wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance, and let's be nice to each other, okay? Get a little testy out there. Everybody could use a little more kindness, all right? So let some people know you're there for them, okay? Hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you next time on the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast. Have a good one. See ya. Bye.